And with us right now is Robert Den Ouden. Robert, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you back. It's been, we were trying to remember the last time you were in here. It was 3 or 4 months ago, maybe 4 months ago.
Right.
Robert is an author. He wrote a book called the Poverty Unchained. The subtitle on that is, Do We, the People, Really Want to Reduce Poverty in America? And we talked about that book when you were in here before, and I just was eager to have you back to kind of give us an update on how things are going and maybe to talk a little bit more about the book. But before we go anywhere, let's just assume that there are people listening now who might not have caught the first program. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I started out as an educator back in the 1970s and did that and coached some basketball for 8 years. Then I went into a small business, a small trophy and sporting goods store for about 4 years, right at the time when the Walmarts and Kmarts decided they were going to go into that, which didn't go well. But it was probably the best educational experience I ever had as far as running a business. Then I was in some management at Meade School and Office Products. I was in the superintendent of manufacturing for about 10 years. And then I got an opportunity to go into the investment business, which I had a strong interest in. And so I built a independent financial services business for 21 years, sold it about 2.5 years ago and retired, and was able to finish what I had been researching for about 12 years on poverty, on generational poverty and the causes and solutions and why what's been done hasn't really worked.
So you wrote this book. And what the process of putting this book together, what was that like?
Another learning experience. So, yeah, I mean, I've had a desire to write the book, but for when I was in business, I'd do writings and I'd stick them in files, and I'd write something else and do some research and stick it in a file. Then when I retired, I had to try to find a way to put all that into some format that would translate that people would understand. And so, I mean, I just had to lay out chapters and say, if I was reading this book, how would I be able to take that information in and learn something from it? I'm still an educator. I think I've always been an educator. I think that's a gift I've been given. So I want people to learn. And so it was probably another 2 years of actually being able to put it together and then researching how do you get a book published, which was another experience. You know, there's a lot of different ways you can go. And so,
would it be fair to say that your book is really has kind of two aims? One is to let people know about generational poverty and how it works or doesn't work, and then the other would be possible solutions to this problem of breaking the cycle of poverty.
Exactly, and it's there's not any one cause or any one solution. It's a combination of a lot of things, and yeah, I mean, what we've done since basically the New Deal hasn't worked. We still have approximately the same number of people in generational poverty that we had back when the war on poverty, I guess, was the term at the time. And so why? I mean, even though we hear good numbers of economic numbers and low, unemployment, the participation rate that you listen to, we still have about 37% of the population. It's not working. And even some that are working are still poor. So why is that happening, and what can we do? And there's some good programs out there that are trying to address it. So it's not like I'm the only one out there, but most people depend on people giving them something and not having to do something in return, which teaches the wrong message, not only for them but for their children as they're in that environment.
So why is it so hard to change this system that we have right now? This war on poverty idea, as you mentioned, we still have the same roughly percentage of our population who are below the federal poverty guidelines, despite the fact that we've spent trillions of dollars on welfare programs.
Well, I don't know how political we want to get. There's a couple of different reasons. I mean, some is people truly believe if they give, they're helping, and they are helping, and we need to serve the poor. We're called to serve the poor no matter what. when you look at the government and their programs, there's, again, over 80 different programs that are supposedly trying to help poverty. But the core is, if you get to, and not, this isn't all politicians, but if you get to the belief, the more politicians have people depending on them for their existence, the more power they have and the more control they have over people's lives. And we're all built on emotion. I mean, you tell people that they're going to get something for free emotionally if they're hurting, that, yeah, that's a great thing. Give me something for free. Well, the problem is there's nothing for free. You know, it comes from somewhere, and some of it's we just print more money, but we pay taxes. Some people pay taxes, so they're actually taking from some to giving to others, and they're not teaching people how to be part of the solution. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense. But
it makes sense. You refer to poverty as a prison of the mind. Tell us about that. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, how we think determines how we feel, determines how we act. And so at a young age, if that's, you know, our brains are like a computer. So at a young age, when you're being coded, you're being taught by parents, relatives, schools of what to think, and it gets wired, it gets hardwired, you know, and so to change that, once you've had 30, 40, 50 years and generation after generation, is an unbelievable task. And you can't just make it happen. You can't just spend it. People have to want to change that. And so there are some people, adults who are in generative poverty, that really want to change. But I think we have to start with our young people to change how they think about being successful and about work ethics and about values. And, you know, we've gotten away from that. And I put some of the blame on parents. I mean, us parents, including myself, again, we always wanted our children to have better than we did and not have to work so hard. And so that kind of programs that, you know. You give them everything as a child, and that's what they expect as an adult. And you can hear that right now and what's going on in politics as far as, you know, socialism. And, I mean, it's being pushed, and people like to hear those things about free things.
Does it distress you then that that so large a percentage of especially younger people think that socialism is a good idea and that capitalism is not?
Well, that's because that's all they've been told. And so, I mean, I keep in my wallet, if I have time, I read the definition of what socialism really is. Yep. It's an economic and political theory advocating collective or government ownership and administration of the means of production and distribution of goods and services. Now, if you just think about that, you're putting the power of our lives in a select few people. And it's inevitable. What happens is what happens in all socialistic countries eventually. You become a dictatorship, and the elites rule, and you have more people poor and fewer people in the middle. I mean, you talk about Cuba, China, Laos, Venezuela, you take your pick. So millennials ought to go there and live there for 2 or 3 years without any subsidy from anybody and have to figure out what that really means. And then maybe they'll start to get it. Where capitalism is individual ownership. We, the people, control. Mm-hmm. So it troubles me a lot, yes.
Capitalism actually starts at your individual ownership of the means of production, but you actually, which means you start with yourself. You're the individual owner of yourself.
Exactly. You start with yourself, and you can make the difference. You have the choice every day to change that, how we think. We're going the wrong way to help the poor. You know, you can't guarantee income for everybody, whether they want to work or not. You can't do that. I mean, millennials are very smart people. If they just stop and think about that for a second, I pray that they'll get it. Mm-hmm. You can't. It's not feasible, and it shows everywhere it's been tried.
So that's the thing that's really puzzling, is that if you look at history, it's really clear socialism doesn't work. Not at all. Economic freedom works better than, there's nothing else that compares with it. So why don't they get that message?
Because that's not what they're hearing, and they don't know history. You know, a lot of history is not being taught anymore. Constitution's not being taught. How we got where we got, including all the warts that we've gone through in our life. They're not teaching that. They're teaching one philosophy, and that is capitalism is bad. Capitalism feeds on the poor. And again, a Christian capitalist does not. They use those resources to help employees, people in the community. And, that's, again, what the whole book is about. The solution is again, that we have to change the heart of the capitalists. Milton Friedman, I think I mentioned this last time. He said that capitalism is the worst economic system in the world except all the others. And it's true. It can create greed in people, and that's not good. And it can use people, but it also does a whole lot of good.
More with Robert Den Ouden just ahead. If you've got some thoughts about this book, would like to get a hold of it and read it, it's the title of the book is Poverty Unchained. Where are some places they could get it, Robert?
Well, I'd like them to go to my website. It's www.choiceorchance.com, and there's a place to say buy book. You can go on Amazon. You can go on Barnes & Noble. Again, those two agencies take a big chunk of that money that I'm trying to use, a big portion of that to help poverty. So the best place is my website at choiceorchance.com.
So his last name is spelled, it's Robert Den Ouden, DENOUDEN, the name. And so it's really a two-part last name.
Yes.
Robert Den Ouden, OUDEN, DENOUDEN. If you Google that, that'll probably get you, if you didn't remember the name of the address, but the name of the address is your name. So either way, they can get to you. Go to the website. That's the place to order the book. All the money then goes directly into what you're able to do with it, and it doesn't go off to add to Jeff Bezos' fortune. He's got plenty.
He's got plenty, yes.
All right, more with Robert Den Ouden just ahead. Robert Den Ouden is our guest. He's the author of a book called Poverty Unchained. Do we, the people, really want to reduce poverty in America? You mentioned Christian capitalism. Can you, in just a couple of minutes, tell us what that means?
In a couple of minutes, maybe a couple of days, but no. Christian capitalism, again, is just I am a Christian, and I believe in the values and morals that Christianity teaches. So, but I also believe capitalism allows us the best way to raise capital in order to do good things that we're called to do as Christians. And it helps us focus on others rather than the greed of money and things for ourselves. And so that's another, we're all tempted. When you're successful, you're tempted that you want things and you think that can make you happy. But you soon find out that doesn't. You just want the next thing instead of using those resources to help others.
Is that true also if you're not successful and you don't have money, you look around and you say, they've got this and they've got that and so forth and so on. I want to be happy like they're happy, as if that would make you happy.
Yeah, that's the envy thing again we're taught as Christians again, being envious of others. And I have truly can say I have never felt that way in my life. When I was a school teacher in the 70s making, I think, $5,000 a year, I never thought that other people had more than me. I control that. And so if I want to change that life, I can change that life. Don't expect somebody else to do it for you. So no, be happy with what you've got, where you're at, or if you're not, change something in your life to improve it.
Mm-hmm. You've got some events coming up that people might need to know about to learn more about your book. What have you got?
Yeah, well, March 23rd, which is a Saturday, there's the Men's Catholic Conference at Our Lady of Guadalupe that I'll have a booth there. I have some books there if people want to buy, autographed books, ask me questions. Then on Wednesday, March 27th, I'll be doing a presentation at East Hills Library, which is at 6 to 8 o'clock at night. where people can learn more about and have a discussion. I really like to have discussions. I threw out some controversial things that people may disagree with, and that's fine. I'm open to discussion. So that'll be on Wednesday, March 27th, 6 to 8 o'clock, and then again on Saturday, April 6th at East Hills Library from 2 to 4. So I encourage people to come out, and we'll discuss, what's in the book and what you agree and disagree.
You talk about it in your book, entitlement, the idea of entitlement. Would you say that the notions of entitlement are more widespread in America today than they have been, say, in our lifetimes?
By far. And again, I spoke earlier, I think part of it is, as parents, we wanted our kids to have more, so they felt more entitled, and then our schools teach more about victimhood, I think. Not intentionally sometimes. It's just how we've progressed. And we teach that, life isn't fair, and we teach that no winners and losers, and, that whole philosophy of wanting things better for people has actually done the opposite, which has made entitlement. My fear is the millennial generation, I think we're going to have more end up in poverty than less because of that.